What's up, YouTube? It's JackalGoldKick, and I'm here with Asset Rootz, and we're going to be doing a collaboration video talking about the problems with today's music. So there's a lot that I could talk about with this topic, as well as Asset Rootz. So figured we'd do a collab video about it. So we talked about stuff like this many times. So when it comes to the problems with today's music, where do I start? Well, one of the first things I want to talk about, and something that I really notice nowadays, is a lot of the music artists I know of either have fallen off, or they're not making music anymore, or they're in a weird place. And I tried to write down everybody I could think of that I want to talk about. So the first artist I want to talk about is Deuce, who was in Hollywood and Dead. Now, I love Deuce's music. Deuce is great. He's talented. One of the better modern artists. He can sing, he can rap, and he's really good at what he does. I like the stuff he did with Hollywood and Dead. I like his solo stuff that he did with Nine Lives, certain features he did with people. I like some of the stuff he did with his, I believe it's the Invincible album. He's made some really good music, but recently, I don't know what's been going on with Deuce. All he really does now is features for cheap prices, and he records most of these features using his phone. He don't even use a studio to record this music, and it doesn't sound that good at all compared to the stuff he used to do. It's just not good. It's mediocre stuff that Deuce is putting out. And I don't understand why he went from making studio quality music to recording it with a phone, doing these cheap features. And even as a person, he's weird now. He'll like ask his fans for money. Like I remember he had asked me like more than once if I had any money, and I said I didn't. I said I didn't have money more than once, and he still asked for money, and I ignored the message. And it's just like I don't know what's going on with Deuce. People have speculated it could be some mental health issues. It could be the fact that maybe he's on some type of drugs. Maybe it could be the Scientology thing because Deuce is a Scientologist, and they don't believe in, I think, therapy and medication and stuff like that. I know Hollywood and Dead was in Scientology as well, and I'm just disappointed with the state Deuce is in. I mean, technically, yes, he's still putting out music, but it's only like features. He's not put out anything on his own, no songs, no albums, no nothing. And you listen to certain interviews, and he's kind of just promoting and talking about the same stuff he's already put out. And it's been years since he's put out anything. And I just don't know what's happened to Deuce. He went from high quality studio music and music videos and interviews and having a lot of people around him like Belay and tons of people he collab with to just being this guy that asks fans for money, cheap features, cheap money for interviews and recording music on his phone and asking fans for money and not doing anything solo wise, not putting out any albums. I don't really know what the hell is going on with Deuce. The music he did make, I love it, but he's in a weird place, and I hope he gets out of it. I hope he gets back to the Deuce we know, because it's pretty bad when the Deuce AI on YouTube that I've heard sounds better than what Deuce is doing now. It's pretty sad. Um, so that's one artist. Another artist, Dennis. Look, I like Dennis's music. Dennis is a really good rapper. I think that the Eminem stuff I don't care about because he sounds similar to a rapper that's good. I don't have an issue with that. There's plenty of rappers that sound similar to each other. Um, and I think Dennis is really good. The pre-EP days, the early days when he was nasty, he put out a lot of good music. New Beginnings had good stuff on it. The Gift and the Curse, even though it was just one topic, Dead End EP had some good songs on it. Final Chapter, I haven't heard that in full myself, but I've heard from someone that that it was disappointing because it only had a few new songs and most of it was like compilation. But Dennis used to put out a lot of music. He had a lot of good songs. He's a really good rapper. But after the Final Chapter, he's been in such a weird place that I don't understand what's going on with Dennis. Because after the Final Chapter, after 2015, from 2016 all the way to now, which has been like, let me do the math real quick. Going on hold on. 2015. So you got 2016. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Going on the ninth year now in 2024. Dennis, for pretty much 9 years now, he's been in this weird place where he will put out snippets, previews, and he'll say that there's a new album coming soon. There's a new song coming soon. There's a new music video coming soon. There was that whole thing with him in Dispensary 7 where they were going to put out the Stan LP with 125 songs and 125 music videos, but that never came to be. Now, from 2016 till now, has he put out some songs? Yeah. He's put out some songs with him and Spencer, and there's been the occasional song that Dennis has dropped by himself. But for the most part, from 2016 till now, he hasn't put out as much music as he used to. He'll drop the odd song, but for the most part, he doesn't really. It doesn't seem like he puts out as much music as he used to anymore. And for years, he's constantly told fans, new album coming soon, new song coming soon, new music video coming soon. He's did this for year after year after year. And I really don't know what's going on with Dennis. Like, is he going to drop albums and songs or not? He hasn't really come out and explained or told his fans why he did what he's did. Why he hasn't put out any music like that. Why has he not put out any albums? Now, for a minute, he was talking about having writer's block. He said he was working on albums, but nothing's ever came of it. The only thing you get from him is the collabs with him and Spencer and the odd song. And to be honest, some of the stuff he has put out really isn't as good as the stuff he used to do. Like the last new song he put out, which was last year, which he took down, it's locked behind his channel membership now. Commotion. I was not a fan of Commotion. I feel like I didn't care about the subject matter of the whole tranny thing. I didn't care about it. The beat felt very outdated. It just didn't sound good, and it just wasn't a good Dennis song. Even Spencer criticized the track. So even some of the new stuff he does put out, it just isn't as good as his old stuff. So I don't know what's going on with Dennis. I don't know, because I know he has pill and alcohol addiction and cigarette addiction. I don't know if those are playing a role in him not putting music out. He said it was writer's block. He said to some fans sometimes that the music industry's changed. I'm not putting music out anymore, or I don't like the way music is. But Dennis hasn't really come out and told his fans what exactly is going on. And I really hope we get an answer one day, because for about 9 years now, Dennis has been doing the exact same thing. Puts out snippets, says the album's coming soon, previews new music, and he promises fans he's got some new stuff coming soon, and nothing ever comes of it. He'll put up snippets, take them down. He'll say new albums are coming soon, and nothing ever happens. And he's been doing this since 2016 for like 9 years now. And I don't know why he's doing this. I don't know what happened to him. But after the final chapter, Dennis has been in this position. So that's what I mean by certain musicians being in weird places. Him and Deuce are in a weird place that I just don't understand. So I don't get it. I don't get it with Dennis. I really hope one day he either keeps his word and puts something out, or at the very least tells his fans what's really going on. Because it's just like, it's going to be like the boy who cried wolf if he even puts something out, because he's been telling his fans forever that he's been going to put something out. And he never does. And I think Dennis needs to get it together, because he's getting older. He's in his mid 30s, I think 36 or 37, and eventually he's going to be in his 40s. You're not getting any younger. I think he should really, do something with his music while he's still, somewhat young, before he gets older and older. And I also feel like Dennis could have did more in certain time periods. Like, he got a lot of success off of, like, him and Spencer got a lot of success off of certain disses they've done. And they could have capitalized on that by putting out albums and EPs right around the time they did a bunch of disses, but they never did that. And I don't know why they didn't, because you have all this buzz from dissing the game and dissing MGK and Nick Cannon. Put an album out, put some songs out. That way people that are talking about this will focus on the other stuff, but they never did that, which I don't get. So, yeah. Another artist, this is more so into the category of artists that are, there's going to be various types here, but this one's going to be in the category of artists that isn't making music anymore. JB. Now, for those that do know my channel, JB is my favorite rapper of all time. I love JB's music. He's made great songs in his early days. All the songs that restored are great. JB has a really good track record. There's very few songs I dislike by him. I like most of the stuff he's done. He's had great albums. Life is Offensive, Remember My Name, Kill or Be Killed, West Coast Symphony, Hip Hop Bliss, New World Order. He's got great projects, great songs, great track record. My favorite rapper of nowadays, because he has that Eminem style, but he also has his own style at the same time, does his own stuff. He's a really good rapper. He's got a good rap voice, good lyrics. He's got good choruses. I love how he speaks out against mainstream rap and a lot of the crap that sucks there, and calls it all out, and he tells it how it is. He just has a really good track record. I like how he doesn't use trap beats like everyone else does. He has his own beats. He started to produce a lot of his own stuff. He just made great music. But after the song Nothing Left But Memories, JB just stopped making music. And hopefully he doesn't mind me having this in the video. If he, he can let me know if he's watching this. But I basically found out from JB that you know, he said maybe one day he could come back, to never say never thing. But pretty much JB is done with music. Um, and it really is unfortunate that he's done with music. Now I understand why he's done with music. I completely get it. He's basically saying that, for 10 years he was doing songs and music and he was just never getting anywhere. He wanted to be more known and wanted to be a household name and have more fame, but it just wasn't happening no matter what he was doing. And he had some moments that he talked about, like, opening up for Snow the Product, but nothing ever came of it. Um, being on Shady 4-5, but Sway never told him what he thought of his West Coast Symphony songs that was played on the radio. And JB was basically telling me that it just felt impossible to get anywhere. And I understand, his mindset with that. I get it. You work hard at being a rapper and you want your stuff to get known, and he was doing it all on his own and he was never getting anywhere, so he just left rap behind and he said he moved on to something else that's more successful for him, which I completely get. um, but he said there is a chance, maybe he said before there's a chance he could come back, but he said that, like the last few times I spoke to him, it doesn't really seem likely. So I definitely understand why JB is on music, but it is unfortunate as a fan of him to see that, because I love his music, and it just sucks that we won't get any more music from JB, because I would love to see new releases. I would love to see new music and new stuff come out from JB. That would be awesome. It would be exciting. So it is unfortunate he's not putting out anything anymore. Last thing he put out was Nothing Left But Memories, and then after that was Party's Over, which he had gave to me. Other than that, I mean, I would like to get those JB songs like Perfect Warrior and all the other ones to technically get some new JB content, even though it's his old stuff. But yeah, JB isn't doing music anymore, and it's unfortunate because I love his stuff and I would love to see new JB music. It'd be exciting, but I definitely understand why he isn't, because I probably would have did the same if I was him, because it's like, you know work at this music and get nowhere with it, and there's plenty of people that make shit music and don't put any effort in it that get all this success. So I can't blame them for feeling that way and doing that. Trust me, I completely get it, but as a fan, it's just unfortunate. Another artist I want to talk about, Cinema Bazaar. Cinema Bazaar was a really good band. I like their music. I think they're a really good rock band. They had really good songs. I liked their style, and I don't know what happened to Cinema Bazaar. With Cinema Bazaar, they were around in like the late 2000s, and they had a different member in the 2010s. Luminor did die, so rest in peace to him. That's really sad. That was their original member. He was replaced by somebody. And the thing I don't get about Cinema Bazaar is they disbanded rather quickly. They were around in the late 2000s, they were in the 2010s, and then eventually what happened is they just stopped making music together. And it's weird because they were pretty much headed in a direction. They were going to have a lot of success. Around the late 2000s, they met Lady Gaga. They went on tour with her. There's even a video of her talking about Cinema Bazaar. So they had that connection. And they were really starting to build a lot of success. They were known. And then out of nowhere, Cinema Bazaar just disbanded. And I really don't know why that happened. There's been no information. There's been no explanation for why they disbanded, but they're no longer together. And it's just strange. And it's also strange because some of the members of the group still make music. Like, I know the guitarist, he's like a Twitch streamer and he makes some solo stuff. And Jack Strifey, who was the lead vocalist of Cinema Bazaar, he does his own solo stuff. Um, and I mean, it's cool they're still doing music, but if they're still doing music, that begs the question why Cinema Bazaar is no longer together, because, the stuff that Jack Strifey puts out, or the guitarist, it's nowhere near as successful as Cinema Bazaar. And I just don't know why they would abandon that band when they had so much success and they had so much potential, and they just disbanded. It's like it stopped before it could even get started. Basically, it's the best way to put Cinema Bazaar, which really sucks because I think they had really good music and a lot of potential, and I don't know why they disbanded like that in the 2010s. Very brief. They had, it's weird. I hope we can get an answer. Or I can find out one day why that is. Um, Another artist I could talk about is Blood on the Dance Floor. I love Blood on the Dance Floor's music. Their music's phenomenal. It made so much great music. One of my favorite artists. But thing with Blood on the Dance Floor is, I mean, technically Davi is still around making music, but Blood on the Dance Floor is not really around making music anymore, and that's due to what Davi did. That's due to the controversy, and all the crap he did, and that's led to, you know, I'm gonna assume Garrett not being around in there, Jay leaving, a lot of people that worked with Blood on the Dance Floor leaving. He had a lot of people come and go with the group, and that's probably because what Davi was. He's a terrible person, don't get me wrong, but I can separate the art from the artist. I still love the music, and it's just a shame what happened to Blood on the Dance Floor because they were one of my favorite artists. They made such great music in the late 2000s, especially in the 2010s. They were exciting, and I loved seeing them put out new stuff. I thankfully was able to find them while they were still around, unlike Cinema Bizarre, when by the time I found them, they weren't around anymore. But with Blood on the Dance Floor, they're not really around anymore. They kind of disbanded after Jay left, but then it came back temporarily with Fallon Vendetta, and then that didn't really work out. Davi still does music, but not under Blood on the Dance Floor anymore. So it's just sad to see what happened to Blood on the Dance Floor. Those days are long gone, unfortunately. Um, so there's that. And then you got another artist talk about Rob Level, who used to go by Novi Novak. Now, no disrespect to the guy, because I did chat with him. He seemed like a cool dude, and he did comment on my top 10 Rob Level songs, which is really cool. But as a fan of Rob Level, I don't like his new music. He's gonna be falling into the category of artists that have fell off, in my opinion. I love old Rob Level songs like "Hooked on the Field," "Black and Yellow Remix," "Hibernation's Over" mixtape, "Theory of Cognition" mixtape. "Grind 365" anthem. He had a lot of good songs. Don't compare him. The old school Rob Level when he was Novi Novak and he wore the hat backwards and when he had the Smokey the Bear character, that was my favorite. That's what I liked. I thought when he was that, he made really good songs, really good music. He had really good rapping beats, lyrics, the style, everything just fit so well together, and I really enjoyed it. But once he became Rob Level and changed his name to that, when he used to be Novi Novak, and pretty much when he stopped wearing the hats backwards, the snapbacks, and talking about Smokey the Bear, um, his music went in a different direction. I don't care for his music now. I'm just not a fan of the beats, the style, the approach he does with the songs now. I'm just not really into it. I prefer the old Rob Level, and I feel like Rob Level just musically, I don't care for where he went. Um, I feel like his music now has more of a mainstream style, I guess, approach, and it sounds like a lot of the stuff that's out there on the radio, and I don't really like how it sounds. I just don't think he's had a good evolution of music. I feel like he fell off, in my opinion. I mean, I'll always love his old music when he was Novi Novak, but I just don't really like Rob Level's new music. I don't care for most of it. And it's just a shame because he is still making music. He's still actually around, but it's just the music he's put out is I'm just not a fan of it. Not a fan of new Rob Level. I wish he would have more stuff like his old music. Other artists, and this could be in the category of somebody that doesn't really do music anymore. Ludacris. What happened to Ludacris? Ludacris used to make a lot of music back in the day. He was big in the 2000s, did some music in the 2010s. I grew up on him. He's a really good rapper. But what happened to him? He doesn't really do music anymore. One of the last few songs he did was that song with Snow the Product, which was an all right song, but it just kind of came and went. I don't really know what happened to Ludacris. All he really does is movies now, which is like, Fast and Furious, or the one movie End of the Road, which I thought was really bad with him and Queen Latifah. And I thought it'd be a decent film, but it was just a really bad film. Couldn't really get into Fast and Furious, so I don't really know what to say about him in those movies. I mean, he was good in Hustle and Flow and Crash, but I would rather him do music. I'd rather see Ludacris do music. And it's a shame that Ludacris kind of doesn't really do music anymore, and he just kind of sticks to the movie side. So I'd like to see Ludacris come back and do some music again because he's still one of the better mainstream rappers, and I don't really think Ludacris fell off musically. Like, I can't say he sucks nowadays musically, at least, but I wish he would go back to doing music because he doesn't really do music anymore. He just does movies. Maybe he gets paid more from that than music, but I wish Ludacris would come back to do music again because it'd be dope to see. It'd be awesome to see some new Ludacris music. So that's another artist. 50 Cent, same camp as Ludacris. 50 Cent ain't did music in a long ass time. 50 Cent used to do music on his own with Eminem. He had the G Unit stuff, all that stuff going on. But after Animal Ambition, all the way to now, 50 Cent, maybe he's did the odd song here and there and some collabs, but 50 Cent doesn't really do music anymore. No projects, no albums, no nothing. And that's a shame to see because 50 Cent was good at making hit songs. He was good at having good albums, good music. He gave hit songs to other people that were technically his songs. Um, he made a lot of really good music. He was from the 2000s that was really good. And I don't know why 50 Cent really isn't doing music anymore. Maybe it's the same theory I have for Ludacris, which is that he's making more money from the movie side of things. Because 50 Cent's more of a director and movie maker now. He doesn't really do music anymore. So that's another artist. It'd be cool to see 50 Cent come back and make some music again, much like Ludacris. I think it would really help make music interesting again and exciting again because a lot of these artists I'm talking about and the point I'm going to get into soon with the video is really going to explain just the problems with today's music, and this is one of them we're still talking about. Next artist I want to talk about Hobson. Hobson's a really good rapper. I think he made a lot of good music. I like his stuff. He was in my top 10 rappers. I really like Hobson's music. But Hobson's going to fall into the category of being a rapper that fell off, much like Rob Level. Hobson's new music just isn't good. None of the songs have replay value and have really been hitting, you know? From Rebirth to Arrival to Single on Single to Betcha Chow, whatever that song's called. I don't like any of those tracks. I feel like Hobson still has it in terms of rapping and lyrics, and his new music videos and the style he has with them are phenomenal. High budget, great music videos, but music and song wise, he hasn't really been dropping anything memorable with replay value. And I just miss the old Hobson, Gazing at the Moonlight, Emerge, LUSD Result, Raw, Knock Madness, even some of the songs he did during the Pound Syndrome and No Shame days. I mean, there was some stuff I didn't like, like I didn't like False Advertisement about the business, but he still was able to come back and drop some good songs at least. But now Hobson just doesn't really drop anything I care for. So I feel like Hobson fell off too. I just don't care for his new music. I think the production he uses is the biggest issue. I don't like the beats. And I just don't think he makes compelling songs anymore like he used to. And we need the old Hobson back, or we need a Hobson that can make compelling songs again, compelling music. He also hasn't dropped an album in a very long time either. So I'm not a fan of new Hobson. I feel like the songs just have no replay value and they lack that distinctive, like you want to keep going back to it, appeal that his old stuff did. He's not making Hop His Backs anymore, or Blood Energy Potions, or Am I a Psycho. He's just not making stuff like that anymore, and it's a shame. Another one I could throw in there that I forgot to put on the list, Eminem. He's also in the category falling off. I did 2 videos about my issue with Eminem's music now. Eminem fell off hard, man. Fell off real hard. He's definitely number one in terms of falling off. Like, I love the stuff Eminem used to make. Slim Shady EP, Slim Shady LP, The Eminem Show, Encore, Re-Up. The stuff in between that wasn't on albums, and even Relapse and Recovery and Hell the Sequel. I feel like he had a pretty good run. Slim Shady. I would say from the Slim Shady EP all the way to 2012, that's when Eminem was good. That's when he was, not only good at rapping with good lyrics, but he made good music and good songs. He had an appealing rap voice, appealing beats. He made really good songs. That's when I liked Eminem. And ever since like 2013 all the way to now, Eminem just really fell off, and I'm not really a big fan of him. I don't really like his new music. Marshall Mathers LP2, I kind of liked it back in the day, but now I don't really go back to it. It's just filled with this weird, like, Harley Davidson kind of country rock rap mixture. It's not a good sequel to Marshall Mathers LP1. There was only a few songs I liked on there, like Bad Guy and Survival and Berserk and The Monster. I think that's the only good song Eminem and Rihanna's done, in my opinion. But for the most part, I don't really like Marshall Mathers LP2. It just isn't a good sequel. And then you had some of the stuff on the Southpaw soundtrack and Shady XV. I didn't really care for a lot of that either, because it was just, as well as that and Marshall Mathers LP2, you know, and like his later stuff, just filled with beats I don't care for, unappealing rap style. And after Southpaw and Shady XV, you had, what did you have? You had the Revival album, which I didn't like either. It wasn't a good album. Now, I don't think it's his worst album, personally. I'll get to that in a minute. What my least favorite Eminem album is, but it definitely is not a good album. It definitely is one of his worst albums. Um, I only like a few songs on there. I like A Rose. I like Castle. I like In Your Head. But that's really about it. I don't care for most of the album. It's poppy, uh, just unappealing rap style and flow he does. A lot of bad beats, a lot of bad choruses. Revival was just not good. I also didn't like Kamikaze either. I didn't like most of the stuff on there. I didn't care for the trap beats or the music style. I also didn't care for Music to Be Murdered by Side A and Music to Be Murdered by Side B. I didn't like either of those. I didn't like anything from those projects. In my opinion, the Music to Be Murdered by trilogy, both of those albums, that is like my least favorite kind of Eminem. I think those are like the worst projects he's done because I don't like a single song on those albums. I can't think of one song I like from those projects. I don't like any of the beats, the hooks. I just don't. And from 2013 all the way to now, his albums and songs, most of it's just been bad in my opinion. Eminem's really fell off. The only thing he has now is he can rap good and he has good lyrics. That's it. Musically, he doesn't have it anymore. And I remember reading somewhere where Eminem was talking about how he wants to focus on being the best rapper now, not so much making the best song. And I just don't think that's a good mindset for him to have because you can't just be a good rapper and have good lyrics. You have to make good music too. Eminem used to do that, and he doesn't anymore. So Eminem fell off as well, and it ain't changing because I heard some of the recent stuff he did. That Doomsday Part Two, it came and went. Either he'll drop a song that's just okay, like Realist with Easy Mill, or Doomsday Part Two, where it's not completely terrible. But even then, those okay songs they just come and go. Eminem just drops really music that isn't good anymore, or he just drops average tracks that come and go and have no replay value. His new music has no replay value as well as his new albums. Um, Another rapper and artist to talk about, Russian Rapper. I love Russian Rapper's music. His music is phenomenal. It's great. It's really good. He's made a lot of good songs. Did a thoughts video on him. He commented on it. But Rush stopped doing music. Sadly, he fits in the category of somebody that isn't doing music anymore. I don't know what happened to Russian Rapper. He did a lot of songs, a lot of music, and he was really dope, really good underground rapper. He kind of spoke out against mainstream rap too, kind of like JB. He was very talented, distinctive rap voice, distinctive image. He made really good songs. He was awesome. The first underground rapper I found. But after Bully, I think for 8 to 9 years now, he stopped doing music. I don't know why that is. I mean, he is still alive and he is still around, but he's never really came out and told his fans like where he's been or what happened. I'm just gonna assume he quit rap for the lack of success. That's what I'm going to assume because that's something he was wanting to get for a while. Is he was wanting to become more known. He talked about it in his songs. He was doing music for a very long time, and he put a lot of effort in his music videos and songs. And he's never got the huge success, even though he definitely deserves it because he's one of the best, much like JB. But my theory is he quit music because of the lack of success, even though he hasn't really came out and said why that is. So sadly, Russian Rapper is not making songs anymore, which really sucks because I would love to get some new Russian Rapper songs. I think he's a great artist. It'd be awesome to get new music. Another rapper to talk about is Tuzin, who then went by Purifier. Tuzin was great. The old days, Hear Me Out mixtape. Tuzin was a great artist from Australia. He made great music. I loved his style. Really good fast rapper. Really good songs, really good beat and lyrics, good choruses. He had a good style. I thought he was a dope rapper, one of the best modern rappers, one of my favorite underground rappers. I put him on my top 10 rappers. I thought he was a great rapper. But Tuzin went through like a change, and he kind of fits in two categories. Someone that, in my opinion, fell off, but also someone that quit music. So it's like two. So after the Hear Me Out mixtape, he went and changed his style and went for more of a mainstream rap approach with the Overdose EP and Crosses and Bouquets mixtape. And there's some stuff I liked from there, but for the most part, I feel like it just wasn't really a good direction for Tuzin to take. He went for more of this mainstream style, and I preferred his Hear Me Out style. I thought it was a lot more appealing. The beats and the style he was going for, just I didn't find it appealing. And after that, he had took all his music down, and I talked to him, and he said that the music industry is evil, and he said something about the 430 hertz or something is just not a good way to listen to music, or it affects you or something like that. And because of that, he stopped doing music. Then he came back with a new rap name, Purifier, which isn't a bad rap name, but I prefer the rap name Tuz, and I think that fits him the best. He did a few songs as that, then he took them down. And he basically told me that, he wanted everything taken down. So you can't really listen to anything he has because the stuff I did post, I had to take down, out of respect for him because he wanted it down. It's his stuff. Um, but basically, what had happened to Tuzin is basically what had happened with Tuzin is that he told me that he wanted his music down and he's no longer going to pursue it or make it anymore because of his religious beliefs. I think his religion was Muslim, if that's what it's called, and that's why he's not doing music anymore. Now, I respect his, religious beliefs. If that's what he wants to do in life, that's what he wants to follow. That's cool. I mean, there are some people that are religious that still make music, so I don't know. Like, I don't know all the specifics and details of every single piece of religion out there. Um, but there are people that make music and talk about religion. So, um, as a fan, I'm disappointed though. It's just unfortunate to see Tuzin just not want to do music anymore due to his religious beliefs. I still feel like he should make music because he's got a gift, he's got talent, he makes quality songs, he's got a lot of potential. I love the stuff he made. He was very young too, so he had a lot of more time to make music. And I just think it's a shame what happened to Tuzin. Not only does music go in a direction I don't care for, but he just doesn't want to do music anymore due to religious beliefs. And he also doesn't want his music up anymore because of that, which, I did take down because of respect for him. But as a fan, as a person, I do disagree with it because the music is really good and I think people should hear it, or I think you should be able to hear it. And I think it should stay out there because it was already put out there for the world to hear. And I think it should stay out there because he's a quality musician and I think it's good stuff. Um, I feel like he could still maybe just have the music out there, but change nowadays. Because the thing is if he never went through being Tuzin and making Hear Me Out and all the stuff he did, he would have never got to the point where he was now. That's the thing I think some people should think about is when you go through an evolution and go through a change in your life, you you wouldn't be able to get to that position if you didn't go through that position, if that makes sense. Like it's the same thing with a creator. Like somebody that starts out, they might make low quality videos on YouTube and have bad quality, and they eventually get amazing quality years later. Should they delete their old videos because of that? No, it's because it shows their evolution. So I don't agree with not having the music up because it's phenomenal music. It's great. People should be able to hear it, but you know that's the situation with Tuzin, unfortunately. I wish he would make music again. I wish we could get the old Tuzin. I wish you could get the old Tuzin back. I wish he'd be fine with his music being out there, but that's the situation with Tuzin. So that's an artist that fits the two categories. I feel like fell off musically and he's not around anymore. Even when he came back as Purifier, I didn't really care for the songs he was dropping. I just wasn't feeling any of them, to be honest, due to the beats, due to the style. So that's another artist. No disrespect to the guy, but just being honest as a fan. Um, Another artist I want to talk about is Olet, which is spelled Olet. Olet is a really good rapper. He makes awesome music. I like Olet. Makes great songs, and he's really talented. But Olet disappeared, and I don't know what happened to him. He hasn't dropped a song in a very long time, and yeah, that's another artist that falls in that category of someone that just disappeared. And I don't know what happened to Olet. He's like a 2010s rapper. If I had to put him in a time period, he made some really good songs, made some really good music. I like the stuff he did. He had meaningful songs. He was a good rapper. He made good lyrics, good choruses, good rap voice. Somewhat of a similar style to him, but he sounded different on his own. He had good songs like Ashley's song, Fight. He had positive messages in his music. He was really good. I can't remember what the last thing he dropped, but he hasn't dropped anything in a very long time. We haven't heard from him, and I don't know what happened to Olet. Hopefully, one day he comes back. Hopefully, we can hear something from him because I think the only project he did was Release Therapy. No, I'm thinking of the Ludacris project. What the hell? No, the only project he did was Rebound, I believe. It's on Dat Piff. That's about it, and a few songs. So I don't know what happened to Olet, but hopefully one day he can come back because he's a really good rapper. If I had to make a theory, maybe he just gave up on music for the same reasons that JB and possibly Rush, the Russian rapper, did as well. Another artist I want to talk about, and this fits into the category of somebody that fell off, Chankster. Back in the day, I loved Chankster's music. When he was Chanzo Cheat Chang, and then some of the stuff he did when he changed his rap name to Chankster, he was really good back in the day. Really liked his music, really liked his songs. The Sweet Dreams remix, the I'm Just a Puppet song, Remember My, I think the song's called Remember Me. Um, the song he did was So Easy. He had a lot of really good songs. I liked his beats, his lyrics, his rap style, his rapping. It was all good. But Chankster changed his rap style and rap sound in a direction that I don't care for. And I told him this myself. And he was fine with it. Me and him are cool. We talk to each other, so I don't have an issue with him as a person. It's just as a musician, I am not a fan of the stuff he does anymore. I have some issues with his music now. Not only I don't like his beats that he uses now, which is like the trap beats, mainstream rap style. But another issue I have with his music now is he raps in two languages. He'll he'll rap sometimes in English and then rap sometimes in his language because he's a Cambodian rapper, and I don't think that's a good approach for music because how is a person that only speaks English going to be able to enjoy your music if they can only understand half of it? And then, the Cambodian people, or if I'm getting it wrong, the language you're using for your music, the other half, how are they going to be able to enjoy the songs if they only understand that part, but they don't understand the English part? And I just don't think that's a good approach to have English and then the other language. I think he should just pick one and go with it. So yeah, I love Chankster's old music, but I'm not a fan of his new music. Don't like the style, don't like the trap beats, don't like the mainstream rap approach. I just don't think it's a good direction he went with his music. I think he had a lot of potential. He was a young rapper. I'm just not a fan of where he went. I feel like he fell off, in my opinion. Um, and then, like I like I said, another issue with Chankster's music now is he raps in two languages, which I don't think is appealing because I can only understand one half, not the other half, and I just think it's weird. So Chankster's another one. And then one of the last few is Fix Craven. Fix Craven's a really good rapper. I like Fix Craven's music. He has a lot of really good songs, really good lyrics, really good beat, really good rapping. He's a dope ass rapper, dope rap name. But by the time I found Fix Craven, he wasn't really doing music anymore. I chatted with somebody that did artwork for his songs. Apparently, he doesn't really do music anymore. He's into other stuff. Like I heard he was into movies or something like that. So Fix Craven doesn't do music anymore either. And that's really unfortunate because I think he made great songs and I'd love to see some new stuff from him. He's an awesome rapper. Phantom, K2, Beverly Hills. He has a lot of great songs. I did a thoughts video on him. He's a great rapper. I don't know why he stopped making music. I'm not sure it's the reason for that. My guess is the same as the guess for Olet, Russian rapper, that it was because of lack of success. That's what I can think of. Some other artists I could think of. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody else I could really think of, but that's one of the main things I wanted to talk about in this video. The problems with today's music is the fact that huge list, of all these artists that I like that either aren't making music anymore or they fell off or they're in a weird place, and it's made music very boring and just very shit nowadays, in my opinion, because there was a time where music to me was exciting. JB and Dennis and Russian rapper, they were making music. Blood on the Dance Floor was making awesome music. Davi and Jay, you had, you know Deuce still in his prime making great music. Hobson was still making great stuff. You just had a lot of good stuff going on in the music industry. There was a lot of excitement. Tuzin was still around. Olet was still around. Chankster, when I liked him, he was good back then. And it's just completely different now. I feel like it's just that's one of my biggest issues with today's music. There's so many artists I just went through. Not only that, but there's other issues with today's music that I've talked about plenty on this channel. Mainstream rap itself is fucking garbage. All the shitty rappers, they always get the most attention, they always get famous, they get signed. While there's plenty of good rappers that deserve that in the underground, a lot of people in the mainstream just sound exactly like each other, in a bad way, not in a good way. Shitty beats, shitty rap style, shitty songs. Just music itself nowadays, like mainstream wise, just very boring. There's been an issue for a long time now because I've ranted on mainstream rap, and I started to really hate it in the late 2000s, 2010s, but it's even worse now. So that's another issue with today's music. The mainstream side of it, and artists that get signed and famous aren't that good, and there just really isn't a whole lot of artists left that I follow. I mean, Kid Cudi's still doing music, but I haven't really checked up on his new stuff like that. Liquid Ice is pretty good. He's someone I follow in the underground. J Positive's pretty good. Daniac still drops some stuff. Um, So there's still a few, but it's just not as many artists as there used to be that I followed that was dropping music still in their prime. You know what I mean? Like in a place of releasing music, all the categories I talked about, the artists I was mentioning. Then another thing I want to say is I feel like the most exciting thing about music now is AI. Literally, AI is the most exciting thing about music now. It's the only thing that's really exciting. The Eminem stuff they do, AI Eminem covering certain songs, certain brand new songs they make, like the AI Eminem and Dr. Dre song Out the Dope. It's better than anything Eminem's put out in the past years and decade. And it's better than anything Dr. Dre's put out in the past year and decade. That's another artist we talk about, Dr. Dre. Holy shit. I should have mentioned this on the list. Dr. Dre's phenomenal, don't get me wrong. He's a great producer. He signed great rappers. He did a lot for hip hop, one of the most important people in rap. Very talented, has an ear for talent. He brought the best out of a lot of artists like Eminem, The Game, 50 Cent, you name it. But Dr. Dre is also somebody that sadly I would also place in the fell off category because the last thing he really did that was good that he never put out, but I heard a lot of leaks for was Detox. Detox sounded really dope. I liked a lot of the leaks for Detox. It sounded great. I really wish that album would have came out. It would have been really good, and he never put it out because he's a perfectionist and he has a certain view of his own work. But I really think he should have put Detox out because it sounded great. Because the other stuff he has put out, like the Compton album, I didn't care for it. It had no replay value. It didn't really feel like a Dr. Dre album. I didn't care for the beats on it. Eminem was only on one song. There was no 50 Cent or G Unit really on the album. It just wasn't a good Dr. Dre album. It didn't have that standing power and that replay value that like the Chronic or the Chronic 2001 had. It also didn't have, it wasn't as good as all the other stuff he did. The work he did for certain artists or collabs he would do with certain artists. So even Dr. Dre's fell off. Like the Contract EP that he did for the GTA 5 soundtrack, the songs I heard from that and that project itself, I didn't care for that either. I just feel like it wasn't good. Didn't care for the beats, didn't care for the style, didn't care for what he did with it. So sadly, Dr. Dre is someone else I would throw on there. Used to be really good, but now he fell off. Songs wise, beats wise, he don't really have it anymore. And that's sad to say. Like even his little contributions he'll make to Eminem's new albums don't really make for good songs. Um, Detox should have came out. So Dr. Dre's another one. So yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of problems with today's music. There really is. And like I said, it's sad that AI is the most exciting thing about music now. I remember finding out about AI music in 2020. Um, AI is literally the most exciting thing about music now. Like the new Eminem songs they'll make with his old school voice, certain collabs they'll do with certain artists. Like I heard an AI song that was pretty good with Drake, Kanye West, Kendrick Lamar, and Eminem called Number One. It felt like Forever Part Two. It was a good song. You know, or Devil in the Details with Jay-Z and Eminem. That's a good AI song. Or Honda with Kanye, Biggie, and Tupac and Eminem and Jay-Z. Or what's some other good AI songs? I like Kanye West's AI cover of Miss Jackson. That's great. It almost sounds real. AI is like I said, AI is the most exciting thing about music now. AI is like outshining the real music we have. Why? Because of the reasons I have explained of my problems with today's music. AI is outshining real music right now because we look at music, look at it. You have all these artists I like that either stopped making music or they fell off or they're in a weird place. And then you have shitty ass mainstream music that's even worse now. You know, shitty rappers blowing up that don't deserve the fame and success. And then with all that, there's just so many issues in today's music. All these artists that I love and that I like either fell off, aren't making music anymore, or are in a weird place. So it's like it makes music not exciting anymore, not interesting. And it's like, damn, music's really lame now. Because I can't even say I can listen to the underground because a lot of the artists I like on the underground either aren't around or they change for the worst or they're in a weird place like Deuce and Dennis. Um, or like Eminem and Hobson, they fell off, or they stopped doing music like JB and Rush and Olet, and it makes music not exciting, and it makes me just feel like with music now because it's like Most of the artists I care about and are interested in, it's not even the same as it used to be. You know, it's not like the good old days where you had JB making music and Dennis making music like that and Deuce making music in its prime. And, you know, Simon Bazaar was around and you had Blood on the Dance Floor in their prime and you had just really cool stuff. You know, that's why the 2010s is my favorite decade of music because I found so many good underground artists and there was so much quality music that came out in that time period. But the 2020s, to now has been like the worst decade for music, plain and simple. There's a few artists, you know, that I follow, and there's a few songs I like here and there, but for the most part, this is the worst decade of music we're in, you know, because we have artists that fell off, artists that stopped doing music, and artists that are in weird positions, and it makes music very weak now. It doesn't have an interesting roster at all, you know, and it just really sucks as a music fan. That's why I just usually listen to the old stuff or listen to the past of a lot of these artists because there's really not a whole lot of new stuff. And I'm not saying I want AI music to take over and that's the only form of music, but in terms of like competition, what's there really to get excited about? What's there really to look forward to with music? You know, like I said, AI music is your most exciting thing, to be honest, because you have the, you know, at least I find it interesting. I think it's the most exciting thing about music now, you know, because music wise, what do you have? You know, Eminem, Doomsday Part 2 came and went. I don't care about a new album from him. It probably won't even be good, much like the rest of his stuff. Hobson, the stuff he's been dropping, I'm not a fan of. I haven't followed NF in a while, but I suppose he's one of the rare few good rappers still. I haven't checked up on Kid Cudi's new stuff. But like I said, for the most part, these are the problems with today's music. Artists that I like aren't making music anymore, or they're in a weird place, or they fell off. So that's a huge issue. My main problem with today's music, you know, shitty ass mainstream music, shitty ass mainstream rap, filled with shitty beats and just a shitty rap style a lot of them have, and people that don't deserve fame. That's another issue with today's music. The fact that AI is the most exciting thing about music now, and it's just better than what we have real music wise. And I just, yeah, these are my issues with today's music. And it felt good to talk about this stuff because these are a lot of problems I have with today's music. From the artist thing I had to mention to the mainstream side of things to just how music is nowadays. And this definitely, it started ever since the 2020s. And a few more things I can mention, like, you know, some other things to notice about music nowadays. You don't really have a lot of new or long lasting producers anymore. Like back in the day, you had people like Dr. Dre and Timbaland and Swizz Beats, you know, producers like, oh, that's his beat, or, you know, these are distinctive dope beat makers. I can't think of any new beat makers nowadays that are really standing out or have a long impact. I can't think of any. Same thing with brand new rappers. Same thing with music itself. Um, yeah. And then another thing I should mention is albums. Albums don't really seem as important or big as they used to be. I mean, that's something that I definitely notice as well. Um, I mean, I do listen to songs more than listening to albums. I will be honest. I don't know why that is, but you know, for people that like albums or interested in albums, you know, that thing's kind of weird now. You know, because there isn't as much like I don't know, albums itself feel different now. You know, like even Eminem, when he does do albums, he don't really do singles or say this new album's coming soon and do music videos. He just does surprise album drops, which to me aren't even as cool as how he used to do albums. So that's different. And then I was talking to Daniac in the Daniac interview, and he was even saying that the music video thing seems to be kind of weird now with music. And there's just a lot of problems with music nowadays, you know. And then you also have certain people that change their personality and it changes their music, which is something else I don't like about today's music. Um, like Belay kind of, I mean, I did like Count It, but I didn't like Triss. Belay became more like spiritual and religious, and his music changed, and not in the direction I care for. Um, and then Hobson, when he changes a person, his music changed. So you have that going on with today's music as well, which I don't care for. Another artist that I forgot to mention on the list that I want to mention is Cosmic. Cosmic was a great rapper. I loved his old stuff. When he was Slice, when he was Chaos Steve, I loved his old music. It was great. You know, I'll Never Grow Up, Mad Kid, um, you know, uh, Going Nowhere. appearances are deceiving, respect my dedication. I love that stuff. I loved his rap voice, his lyrics, his beats, his choruses. But ever since he did Listen to Your Heart and he changed his rap name to Cosmic and he became more spiritual, his music went in a different direction I don't care for. He started making like just sort of positive only music, positive only rap. It just really isn't that interesting to me. I feel like it don't make for interesting songs, interesting subject matter. And it just isn't interesting in general. I don't mind Illuminating Soul, I guess, but I don't care for most of his new stuff. I prefer the old Cosmic. So that's the artist I could put in the category that I feel like fell off, but also like changed his style. I miss the old Cosmic. That's another artist I forgot to mention. But yeah, I don't really think I have anything else to say for this video of the problems with today's music. I think I said everything I needed to say. To sum it up, the artist stuff that I was mentioning, mainstream side of stuff of music, how albums are now. The thing I mentioned a little bit with music videos that Daniac was telling me about in the interview when I interviewed Daniac, which check that out if you haven't seen it. Dope rapper. I interviewed him. And then, like, you know, how some people change their personality, but it also changes their music. So, yeah, these are my issues with today's music. Now you're going to see Acid Roots, his part of this collab of the today's issues of music, and you're going to see what his issues of music are nowadays. So all I got to say on my part, peace.
What to do, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I've got a collaboration video here with JackalGoldKick, and basically in this video we're going to talk about problems with today's music as far as that particularly kind of happens. So there's a number of problems that kind of go along with some of this stuff. I'm going to get to a few of these. So one of which would be just the healthiness and kind of purifying that's kind of going along in music. There's some certain folks in this biz, like so one of which problems that's been going on in current music has been healthiness and purifying. So basically folks like Belay, Hobson, Royce the 5'9", folks like that, Eminem, and like a smaller sense, some of these folks have been kind of tidying up their image and just have been kind of having like a more drug-free campaign. It's not so much the drug-freeness that's like the hugest problem about it. It's just kind of the mentality switch and just kind of a more kind of unctuous and just kind of more just like kind of earnest kind of feeling just within the music, and especially on social media places like Instagram and Twitter and some of those type things that just kind of make it for more of like a super kind of goody two shoes type feeling that's just not really that much of like an interesting listen, I would have to suppose, with things like that. I mean, it's fine to be on your best behavior in certain senses as far as not getting arrested and going to prison and things like that, but some of these folks are really becoming a lot more tidy, and it just doesn't make for an interesting listen. Like I think Eminem and Tech Nine and folks like that had like this brooding and ruminating down with songs like Cleaning Out My Closet and some of those type pitches definitely had a more interesting type listen. It's just a lot more compelling to hear some of those type songs. Not to say just to thrive off the negativity, but just the concept of just being able to make an interesting song and sort of the pitch that's just not super optimistic and just kind of, I mean, I just think that some folks kind of have like these positive vibes only type vibes that just kind of are not terribly, I mean, there's going to be modes and moods for certain things where you're not always in 100% kind of a good mood. And I just think this kind of, it just has become kind of like a dogma source that's just not very compelling in today's times to kind of get some of that stuff. It definitely has happened with more folks than just Belay and Hobson and Royce the 5'9". It's happened with folks like Puff Daddy and DJ Khaled and some of those type folks that just have like a positive vibes only type mindset that's starting to cross over to music and just kind of make things less interesting just because you just don't get like the edgy type songs and just overall kind of moodiness that used to be back in like the 2000s and 2010s. That's definitely one. Another problem with today's times is longevity. Basically, albums by Eminem like Revival and Music to Be Murdered By are just not sticking around on like the music charts, like album sales and stuff like that, compared to albums like Curtain Call and Recovery and some of those type ones that just went multi-platinum and things like that. And there's other albums of previous times like Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar and Drake's Take Care and some of those type ones. Just some hits out of the early 2010s, things like that. I'm trying to think of a few other ones. Like other early classics out of the early 2010s, like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West, some of those type ones. Definitely Good Kid, Mad City, some of those particular type pitches. I would say maybe Drake's Scorpion, some of those type ones that were just kind of a big deal throughout the 2010s. Those albums tend to last longer and have just been on the Billboard 200 charts for album sales and things like that. This kind of feels like the longevity singles, whether you're talking single sales or album sales, it just feels like recent times just haven't had that kind of chartability. Like Dr. Dre's newest album from 2021 or early 2022 just doesn't compare to like 2001. It's the same thing with Compton. Compton, I don't know if that one platinum or double platinum, something like that. It's just kind of the concept that some of these are just not comparing to like 90s, 2000s, early 2010s type fairs as far as that pitch kind of happens. I just feel like when you, especially if some of these artists were around in like the 2000s and early 2010s, you compare the sales nowadays to the sales from like 15 or 12 or 10 years ago, something like that. It's just kind of a different pitch. That the longevity of these songs just are not lasting. The longevity of this music is just not as long lasting and just not as durable, I'd have to say. That leads me to my next problem, which would just be multi-platinum. So basically, I was trying to look some information up about multi-platinum rap albums that just around these times have gone double platinum or just have sold over 1 million copies or something like that. There might be some albums that went platinum, but the information on this is kind of tricky as far as that kind of happens. One of the few artists I can think of that went past double platinum across the past several years since at least 2020 was just Lil Baby. I think his album like My Turn went I think Lil Baby's album My Turn at least went double platinum, but I can't think of a ton of rap albums that went multi-platinum in like the past 4 or 5 or 6 years, something like that. So it's kind of the concept about it that says a lot about today's rap sales, that albums are just not selling as much, and if they are, it's just not very much talked about. It's just not wholesomely known about. Like rap really didn't do that well in 2023 is kind of the pitch about it. The singles were just not compared to like country and pop and some of those type ones. Olivia Rodrigo really had a dominant year, Taylor Swift, folks like that, but it's just not quite as heavy just within the last good while as far as multi-platinum sales, I'd have to say. So that's the thing about it. And then another problem with today's music is singles only. So a lot of these folks, seems like a lot of folks from today's times are only doing singles. They're not really dropping albums. They're just kind of putting out like $1.29 singles, and that's basically about it. They're just trying to get like TikTok sales and just kind of more for streaming in that sort of sense. I feel like a lot of these songs nowadays are just more. I feel like a lot of these songs are just more designed for TikTok and things like that, especially from like rap females, folks like Erica Banks and Sweetie and some of those type folks that have just been kind of making strictly kind of single sales just within that pitch. I mean, there's folks that have been kind of doing that. It's just kind of here and there. Cardi B's another one. This number of folks that kind of have that particular pitch, but I just look after it. I would like to see like some classic albums kind of make a comeback and things like that. Just kind of getting some album sales that just kind of are dominant again and getting to like the third and fourth single and just some things like that from earlier times. I mean, I know at least you're getting songs. So the music is still thriving in a sense of getting new music and updating often. There's a lot of folks that are putting out like 5, 10, 15 songs a year in that sort of pitch, but it's just kind of only singles. You're not really seeing the album as much. It's just kind of, especially like I was saying, especially from like rap females, they're just kind of putting out singles, just putting out hot songs, and then just kind of being more of a tease and things like that. As far as that pitch kind of happens, is kind of the thing. It's just kind of more instant gratification type stuff, where you just get the song, it gets boring 2 or 3 weeks later, and then that you just move on to the next one or something like that. Just a lot more fad like. That leads me to the next problem I'd have to say, which is just less initial shock. I'd have to say, apart from maybe like Olivia Rodrigo and maybe some pop artists, things like that, just folks that are kind of predominant in like pop music, that doesn't seem to be having as much of a problem as like rap does. It just feels like there's not as many rap universal big deal folks like Eminem and 50 Cent, Lil Wayne, Kanye West, Kendrick Lamar, Hobson, Juice WRLD. It just feels like these big deal type folks that are just universal, or they're just kind of across the board, just like getting like the rave reviews, like Eminem's Marshall Mathers LP, 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying, Kanye West College Dropout, Lil Wayne's The Carter 3, Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City, those type of albums. Hobson with like his underground appeal, Tech Nine with like his underground appeal, just those sorts of folks. Juice WRLD with like his Goodbye and Good Riddance album from 2018. That was just a big deal in like the late 2010s type vibe. It just feels like these sorts of folks are just popping up less and less. You get these folks, but they kind of have like a haphazard kind of appeal about them, where some folks like them, but other folks hate them. It just is not quite as universal. Like people may have disliked Eminem, but it was just kind of a more ubiquitous feeling back in like the early 2000s, just because of all the folks that were wanting to be like Eminem, like in the real Slim Shady and dyeing their hair blonde and things like that, just within the pitch of trying to get some of those particular type things. Same thing with 50 Cent. Folks really thought, it was a big deal him getting shot 9 times and those sorts of pitches as far as that kind of happened. Just those sorts of big deals. Lil Wayne sold 1 million copies in his first week with like the Carter 3. So it's just a lot of big deals about some of those times. You don't really see those like you don't really see like those shocking kind of things as far as that pitch kind of has. So that's just kind of the thing about it. So those are some of the problems I've seen in today's music. I'd have to say is this kind of the context. There's a number of things like music's kind of becoming more dicey in that sort of approach as far as that kind of happens. So I just would have to look after it. It's just kind of, I mean, I don't think like music is like superbly god awful. Like there's never going to be any good songs and things like that. But it just seems to be more of like a kind of if you know kind of situation. It's just not quite as like widespread and ubiquitous. It's like things were just a lot more vocal about like the dominance that they had like 10 and 15 years ago and things like that, and even 6 or 7 years ago. It just seems like more things are just kind of discreet in a sense than just kind of ho hum kind of reception that it kind of gets. That's kind of the thing about it.